getting the initial pre-check and everything out of the way.
Yeah, they're getting this whole thing to take off, especially how difficult it's been to actually thing going. I really apologize. I should probably be better with technology.
Oh, no worries. To me, like, you just showed up and it's working fine. Did we like
Perfect.
reschedule you or something, or?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, like 3 or 4 times.
What?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was a huge inconvenience, and I wanted to bring it to your attention immediately. No, it was all my fault. It was, a couple of times I wasn't looking at the link, and then the other times I had to reschedule right at the last minute. So no, it wasn't you guys. It was me the whole time.
Oh, that's so good. That's such good news. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? This is happening and I'm unaware of it? Like, oh no.
I like how much you've been looking forward to this one, though, that you didn't even know.
No. So what happens? Yeah, no, what happens is like everyone's schedule like constantly moves. Like my actual schedule, because I do, anywhere from 4 to 6 meetings a day. They just always are moving around. So I see the notifications popping through, but sometimes it's us and sometimes it's, the other person having to reschedule. So like I'm always trying to be aware of if our goal is that, like, if I get sick or if something happens, that we try never to reschedule a guest more than once. So I just want to make sure we're hitting that. No, but I am like super excited to talk to you. I always love talking to technologists, and my family's all doctors. So when doctors and technologists, so when I saw DocsInk, I was like, oh man, this is exciting.
Really? What kind of doctors are they?
They're DOs. One's in bariatrics, one's a family physician.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How are they liking all the regulations that have been passed? Are they fairly okay with it? If they're technologists, are they fairly excited by them, or do they feel a little bit overburdened and overtaxed with all the new technology that's kind of pushed down their throat?
Yeah, so half the families, like, we make technology, and the other half are in the medical field. So they're actually not very technologically inclined. But what the big conversation lately has been that they're frustrated with the AIs bothering them about their patients. So like insurance companies will start looking at what you're prescribing your patient and then suggesting that they might have other things based on the prior prescriptions. And they're not necessarily as smart as they could be because they're new. So the doctors or the physicians, they have to respond to the insurance companies. There's like, oh, if you're on this medication, they might have diabetes. Why haven't you ran these set of labs? And then they're having to spend time replying back to that automation saying, hey, we didn't because of this, and that. This is a situation where we wouldn't need to do that. And so it's creating like a ton of extra work for them with the insurance companies adapting these new technologies.
Right. So they're getting the whole over notification and then having to respond to the notifications. I think that has been just, especially with the new push inside of healthcare, the over notification of the doctors and the doctors being forced to respond to those is pretty exhausting. And it's unfortunate that, they're on the front lines of this and you need their input, but they just get overburdened and overtaxed with these notifications that a lot of doctors just end up putting it down. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't, or at least opted out of the program. Do they have that option, or is this something that they're kind of stuck into?
I'm not sure, but I'll bring it up at the next dinner. I did tell them though, I was like, I feel your pain, and I showed them my Slack.
Yeah.
I was like, I understand over notifications. Is like, whoa. I'm like, that's what a team of 14 looks like. So I want to know, what is DocsInk? So for everyone listening, right? And by the way, we're recording. We just hang out and talk, and that's how we roll. But I want to know what DocsInk is, what it does, how it got started. I want to know who you are.
All right. Well, I'll tell you about I'll just tell you what the products we offer and the services we offer right now, and then kind of tell you how it got there. But right now we're a hospital charge capture service. So it's a mobile application that doctors take into the hospital, and then they document their patient encounters, and then we take that information, we post it back to their practice management system or their EHR. And it's a way to streamline their charges. A lot of doctors, obviously the non-compliance of carrying around the charts that they're typically using or any of the face sheets, and then getting those face sheets actually back to their billing office. There's a huge inefficiency there, and then there's a lag, and then there's an opportunity for lost charges. So if you can make an application that is really quick for them to document that interaction with the patient and automatically updates the billing office with the information they need to get the charge out, they'll typically see an increase in reimbursement in somewhere between 15 and 18% in the first 30 to 45 days. So that's the one service. But then we really morphed into communication, because really that is a communication issue. You're talking about getting the patient encounter information back to your biller, which is really saying, hey, this is what I did for this patient, documented, please go ahead and send this out. So when we kind of added another product offering, a service line for HIPAA compliant secure communication, because there really wasn't anything out there at the time that was really good and was connected to the charge capture that would connect the doctors, back to their home office. So we developed it, and that was the second level of offering. And then we were watching the regulatory changes that were coming down from CMS, and this is really just a testament to our CEO, Julie Thomas. She's really great at understanding the changes that are coming inside of medical billing, and saw that chronic care management was going to be a big deal. Taking care of the patients when they leave the hospital, making sure that they're not readmitted to the hospital and to that expensive emergent care, making sure that they're being transitioned and managed by their primary care provider or an outsourced CCM company. And we built a CCM platform that just happened to become a really big platform for pharmacists, because pharmacists are now considered a primary point of engagement for the patient, which is kind of ironic because, they were doing this study and they thought it was going to be the primary care provider that was really in touch with the patient. But it turns out those chronically ill patients see their pharmacists 36 times a year. So they are pushing to give pharmacists more of a provider role inside of there to help manage these chronically ill patients. And that is the platform that we built. And that's probably our fastest growing product right now is the CCM line. And we just released just yesterday an update to it for enhanced CCM and audit lock to really kind of nail down the regulations and the requirements for the medical decision making that the users have to perform. It's a little bit of a cowboy area at this point, what you have to document, the way you have to document it, and how you have to submit it. And that's what we've seen over the last year. So we wanted to offer something out there that was a little bit like TurboTax, where it'll kind of walk you through it, make sure that you crossed all your T's, dotted all your I's, and then you can submit that bill, understanding and knowing that that is exactly the level of billing that you're supposed to be submitting for what you just told us you did for the patient. So those are the three product lines. Yeah, it's as interesting as medical billing can be, I think.
Well, yeah, right. No, it's an interesting insight, like a human thing, because you're right. Like, I live in a retirement town. I live in Sarasota, Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the insight that caught my attention when you were speaking was everyone has specialists. You have like 40 specialists, and you're on your way out usually. So retirement's and so the one you're exactly right. Like, the one person they're all seeing is the pharmacist, because they go to that same pharmacist, and their pharmacist is more aware of what's going on in their global health world than any one of the individual practitioners, most likely, because they are constantly seeing everything that's happening to them. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of a surprise. We got invited to this thing with CCNC last year because we were one of the first chronic care management platforms out there, and they work specifically with pharmacists. And so we got invited to go learn this enhanced care plan. It has to be, it's got to meet all these guidelines and these requirements, and none of us knew really why we were there, because pharmacists don't work inside of care plans. They just typically haven't worked inside of care plans or worked as a patient encounter or the provider role. So we were, we were all kind of sitting around after like day 3, all of the vendors, and we were like, I really don't understand why we're here. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the workflow of things. And then at the very end, when she explained it, she said, look, this is, when we started this grant and we undertook the study, we didn't think we were going to get these results, but this was the result of it. And this is why they're pushing so hard. And then it made perfect sense. These pharmacists are now going to be the extenders of these primary care providers and running, not interference, but kind of interference to make sure that the emergent issues that these patients are experiencing don't put them back into a really expensive environment that they don't need to be, that being obviously hospital care, because you're going to get dinged by not taking care of these patients when you could be managing their health, instead passing it off to the more expensive, healthcare environment. So it's all about, just getting in front of that patient before they go to the expensive healthcare environment, like the hospital or emergent care. If you can just head that off at the pass and manage that patient care outside of there.
So can pharmacists prescribe?
No.
They can't? Okay. That's so interesting. So they can make the drugs, but they can't prescribe them. Yeah, because I'm right. You got me thinking all of a sudden about the medical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is interesting. So the chronic care, they're going to play more, the pharmacists in the future are going to play more a part in a patient's life in chronic situations to keep them from the more expensive health situations. Is that what we're saying?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the point of it.
Yeah.
It is isn't it kind of counterintuitive that a pharmacist doesn't prescribe?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They dispense what's prescribed to them.
Well, and then, it's also I'm thinking about is we had a huge drug issue in Florida with like some of the addictive medications. I don't even know which ones they are, but they, I just remember hearing about blue pills all the time on the news, right? So there were these pills and people like pain pills and people were very addicted to them. And it was a huge epidemic in Florida. So they built this system. This is how I found out about it, because I build technology systems. And they built this system that tracked if you were getting multiple prescriptions from multiple locations. It was this database. So they knew in Florida, like no matter what pharmacy you went to, if you're being overprescribed something, right?
Right. Yeah. For the patients that were pill shopping, and then the doctors that would actually prescribe is like over prescribe. And isn't it surprising though? It's like, and I guess that's probably in the last like 2 years that's kind of taken off. But it's kind of surprising that wasn't there like 10 or 15 years ago. It is. Yes. Isn't it a surprise at how poorly I guess the quality of technology that is literally there. It's capable of being there, but it isn't there at this time. And that's what I find in healthcare. It's kind of one of the things that the irony of healthcare is that the technology isn't very good. It's very antiquated, and a lot of it is because it's so big. Like it takes an enormous technology system inside of a hospital to manage all the different workflows of everything that's going on inside of that hospital, and then all of the outside things that are required to run the things inside of that hospital that have to talk to these, these huge technology systems. It takes a lot. It's so big that it takes so much to make small changes inside of there. So, I mean, I kind of get it, but as somebody that I didn't come from a healthcare background. I just got into it when I started doing technology and, happened to work for a healthcare company. And then I would go in and I would just see the craziest, the most antiquated machines running these tests or reporting on these tests that were, these are patients' lives. And you would see like the things that the doctors were having to enter into these data fields that were just offensive to look at. I mean, it was awful to look at. It was even worse to interact with. And I was like, I remember when I first saw my first EHR and I was like, I can't believe you guys spent millions of dollars on this. Please,
right?
What did you guys do? But it's crazy. Yeah. That opioid database for overprescribing the pills. I remember I was at a conference last year and they talked about that. And I went and looked it up, and obviously, not to say anything negative about it, but I don't find it to be that great. I think there's a lot of holes in it. And I don't know that it does exactly what it's supposed to do, but I was like, how is this not better given where we are? How is this not better? And I'll tell you the thing that I think that may be worse for that is that our doctor, our chief medical officer, is actually in the hospital. He's a hospital doctor. And I don't want to say he stopped prescribing. I don't want to over assign that, but he's very careful to the point of not prescribing any of those kind of those drugs, narcotics, and forcing that back to either the primary care provider or another specialist because of how scrutinized it is. And you can't be 100% as to who's not pill shopping and who is pill shopping and who's lying about it and things like that. And, ultimately it comes back to that doctor to supply evidence for it. And, if you're seeing 35 patients a day and you're working 12 hours a day, and now you have to be an investigator and understand the psychosis of the patients that are trying to steal drugs from you.
That you spend 15 minutes with.
Exactly. And then, exactly. Right. And he's in emergent care. So he's seeing new patients almost every day. So he doesn't have that kind of background where he can look back to the patient and understand, whether that patient's telling the truth or not. Sometimes these patients are just in there and they're like, my doctor usually gives me that drug that sounds like Schmanax or something like that. Yeah. It's a very typical way of trying to get the drugs. But yeah, but it's funny. That's the thing. I don't know if it's as good or if it does the job. But I don't know. Then you see all this other stuff about opioid abuse out there, and it's awful and it's tragic. So where's the balance?
Here's the other thing too. When you switch from, I found this out, like when you switch from physician to physician, there's no continuity between your records in the sense that like Dr. A can't tell what Dr. B prescribed you.
Isn't that crazy?
That's like, that blows my mind that it's 2018. And my brother's like, yeah, we get paper records like transferred down because we get a lot of snowbirds. So we get paper records that get transferred down. He goes, then I have to go through them and look at them. And, I just kind of look at the most recent stuff and make a summary of it. And I spend, 15 minutes on this patient. I'm like, wait, so there's not like this timeline you can scrub. I'll imagine like my Git repo where I can like scrub through the timeline and see every change ever. He's like, yeah, right, bro. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, my Saturday night. And he like walked me over to like his stack of folders. He's like, yeah, that's Saturday night for you. He's like, these are 6 new patients that are coming in this week. I have to spend an hour on each of them going through and kind of making my notes of an overview. And I'll tell you what, the number of technologies that I've, whiteboarded in 20 minutes at dinner and just never pursued is unlimited.
Yeah, it is so smart of you to not pursue those technologies. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because you know what? It doesn't. The other thing with healthcare is and I see a lot of like talks on this, especially with when you're listening to VCs and how they approach funding healthcare technology and medical technology. They're really looking at if you can make one of these, it's impossible. It's very hard to make an enterprise sale on on emerging technology, but it takes a long time. I mean, I'll tell you, like our first year, and we got really lucky. We were building it with University of Pennsylvania cardiologists. Mm-hmm. These are world-renowned cardiologists. They're in the UPenn hospital system. They're great. Even with them allowing us to build the technology for them piloting it, them taking it through all of the releases and versions until we were commercially ready. Even with them, I mean, it probably took us another year before we made our first commercial sale to somebody outside of that. How crazy is that? I mean, and it was good. And it was good. It was great for cardiologists that were rounding inside of the hospital. But you literally, I mean, it's just the sales cycle for healthcare, the sales cycle for medical, and then obviously the hoops that you have to jump through for compliance and security just to get into a hospital system. It's a 16-month ordeal. I would prefer just to sell directly to doctors, but doctors really don't want to buy anything else anymore right now.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like
that's tough.
That's why I'll tell you what the idea was. Right, very simple. So he gets this new patient folder. Right, it's got like 60 pieces of paper in it, and he puts it through his scanner, and the scanner OCRs it and builds this timeline based on the keywords, and ultimately it comes out with he can highlight and scrub through these documents really fast, and then it extracts insights from them, and then it just puts it into this patient prep interface, right? And so I was like, oh, this is cool, right? And then we found out that, well, if something is missed, and people rely, and the doctors now rely on it as like, oh, I'm just going to shove all the paper in here, and now it's going to create these, this patient prep interface so I can sift through the information easier. Then people are going to rely on it, and then the moment something happens, they have something new to blame other than themselves looking through the stacks of paper.
Yeah,
it's like, well, then
exactly.
you have to cover, then you have to deal with that.
And they go right back to paper. And I don't really fault the doctors for it, because quite honestly, the paper chart and the way that it was developed, and the way that if you see, really seasoned doctors, and I don't mean this, like, I don't want to say old doctors, but seasoned doctors that, they had their own charts, they built their own healthcare kind of templates and protocols inside of those charts. And the way that they manage that information inside of there, sure, it's an old chart system. And sure, it sucks if you have to send that over to another doctor who is not familiar with that. But the way that they can manage that information and the way that they know their patient is really great. But unfortunately, when that patient gets sick and then he needs to go see his, the gastroenterologist, or he's got to go see the dermatologist, trying to get that information and then passing that patient history off to that new specialist that is the nightmare of it. But that is a great way. I mean, it's good to streamline it, but I'll tell you, just exactly what you said. As soon as it makes a mistake, they'll go right back to paper because of their exposure to risk, and they are exposed to risk. Just their exposure to risk. It's as much as a rewarding job, and I've seen it be rewarding for doctors. It is such a hard and demanding job. People only see you when they're sick. Nobody comes to see you because they're great.
Yeah,
nobody's ever just skipping and dancing and
Brad,
singing.
I can't figure out why I'm so healthy and happy. Can you? Something must be wrong.
I've never been this happy before in my life. It's great to see you. Nobody ever goes to see the doctor. Exactly. Oh, great. This guy, he's pill shopping again. So you found somebody.
He's got happy pills.
Exactly.
Oh, so how did you meet Julie? How did you get involved in this endeavor?
Well, Julie she's worked in healthcare all of her life, inside of medical billing and practice management, just kind of managing hospital billing and stuff like that. And then we were, with the whole meaningful use push about 8 years ago, I think it was somewhere on there. We were working with the UPenn cardiologist to find an appropriate EHR. And that's when I first got introduced to that. Julie and I were working together as kind of with a consulting company. I was managing like the technical side, and she was managing the healthcare workflow side. And so we went up to the UPenn side, UPenn to talk to the doctors, and they were just losing money hand over fist, and they couldn't really understand why. And part of it was they had their billing was antiquated. They had a really old, EHR system or practice management that was kind of cobbled together. They were using Sage. It was green screen, how they were using, and that was in 2010. 2010, this incredible cardiology practice was being managed by something that was just green screen. It was terrible.
Oh my goodness.
So, but then, the thing is, then they went and bought this EHR, and I don't want to say the name of it, but it was just as terrible, I would say, except that it was acceptable to the meaningful use guidelines and standards. I mean, it was so bad it had a pulsing heart in the upper left-hand corner of the software. Yeah, right?
That was like the hamburger menu.
That was it. Yes, it was
terrible. That was awesome.
And yeah, and I remember because I had to go get trained on it down in Georgia. That'll kind of dropping little clues, but I had to go get trained on it to be a super user on it before we put it in. And I was just so, it was kind of sad. I mean, it was great software. It did what it was supposed to do, but it was just so difficult and unfriendly to use that I was like, well, I know why a doctor is not coming back from the hospital, after working 12 hours, and then he gets to interact with this to put in his billing. I know why he's not doing it. It makes perfect sense. It's like going back to your home office and then somebody just punching you in the face for about an hour.
Oh,
so
no.
That
does not sound good. I think I'm going to need to see a doctor.
Exactly. He has to refer himself to a specialist after an hour with his
the face
HR.
punching specialist.
So it was it was really clear to us that there was an opportunity. And then that's when, you know, we saw them losing all this money. We were like, oh, you know, it's as soon as they step out of the practice, they're losing money. And then it was right about the time that, you know, the smartphones were taking off and they were letting you build on their operating system. So we're like, oh, we'll just put a charge capture app on this and start to save you guys some money.
Nice. And that's always easy to sell, saving them margin, right? So what
God, no.
No?
not in healthcare. No, man. I mean, you're still selling side of healthcare, even if, and this is, you know, it's, you know, we have investors, obviously, and our investors initially, when we brought them on, you know, when we raised our first round, we were like, oh, you know, we're making you know, if you can make a cardiologist unit an extra 18 to 20%, you know, you're talking about, you know, another $20,000 to $25,000 per cardiologist per year, which you would think would be a lay down, no brainer. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Get this in here. It's more efficient, makes me more money. No, that's what I'm telling you, man. No. And it's you know, that's what I said, our first year, we probably had 1 or 2 clients, and our investors are like, what is going on? And so we took them to these sales pitches, and we took some of the people in there. We're like, watch this. We're going to prove to them we can make them more money. We're going to have all of our referrals, all of our references ready. And then I promise you, they won't do it. And then that is what happened. It would just stack up that we had all this opportunity out there, but they just wouldn't move. They've been beat up by all this other technology. They had EMRs being shoved down their throat. They didn't have time to take in one more technology, no matter what. And it was just, it was that. And things really turned around after like stage 2 meaningful use. And, you know, actually their technology started to get better. So, you know, now that our technology talks to their technology, it's really like an add-on at this point. It's like, hey, you know, you can just, you know, it's like adding another app onto Slack or to Spark or something like that. Now it's a lot easier. But I'll tell you, man, the very first 2 years, we were beating our heads against the wall. We would come back and, you know, we'd show these hospitals this great ROI, and they'd be like, all right, well, you know, let's talk to you guys in a couple of years. And you know what that's like, you know, when you're raising money. Yeah,
no,
exactly.
This is a great idea. We're
going
to move on it. Let's move on it in like 2020. We're going to do it in 2020.
Yeah, and then you go and you update your pro forma and your business model, and your investors looking at you like, so we're gonna have a huge year in 2019. All we got to do is weather this millions of dollars of losses for the next 4 years. 2019 looks strong.
What does your development team look like? Like, how do you deploy? Like, how many people do you have on your development team? How is it struck? Are you remote, local? Like, what's it look like?
Most everybody's remote. At this point, we got our product leads we've got a product lead for each one of our products. We've got our application architect, who's been here with us since the first round. And he's really the guy that handles, you know, all this. He's architected the entire thing. He's an absolute genius. I mean, literally just genius. And you know what, the kind of person that takes to do that is like somebody that really likes to dig and discover and really likes problems and problem solving and working the problems. I can't say enough about our team. They're really amazing. But we've got a group of roughly 15 to 20. It varies depending on you know, where we are and some of the stuff. And almost all of them are remote except for our main guy, Jimmy Sanchez. He's our application architect. And then we just hired a new girl. And I can't say who it is because we just hired her yesterday. She just signed her paperwork, but an absolute rock star in the healthcare industry. She believes heavily in FHIR, which is fast healthcare interoperability resources, which is where if the industry were to ever get to where the industry needs to be, it's going to have to use FHIR. And she's amazing with FHIR. And we interviewed her twice, and literally by the 10 minutes of the first interview, I just wanted to hire her, but we had to do 2. So she didn't think she had us over a barrel, you know, we had to do another one. She was like, oh, this is easy. You guys are this desperate for somebody this good.
No, I hire people on the spot, man. You know what I say to people? I say, I hire fast and I fire fast. And like, if I get the feeling that the person's good, I'll hire them.
Yeah, no, that is true. And, you know, we fire fast and we also rehire fast, you know, depending on, you know, we fired our network administrator, and I hope he never listens to this. And I don't know why he would.
He will. I'll leave it until, what's his name?
He's the only one I'm not going to name by name.
Brad, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
That is what I get on my Slack after the fire, the post fire.
I get most of my management strategies from like romantic comedies. So rom-com management, that's my next book.
Yeah, exactly. And then the third act, you know, when you get back together, that's what it is. That's really what it's like.
Dude, you can't have the highs without the lows, though.
Exactly. I wouldn't know how good you were until I saw how bad you were. Until I saw you pick yourself up from the lowest, which is what you did to our network. I didn't know what a shining star you were. Yeah.
Oh, yep. So now I don't even know what we're talking about. But that was awesome. Yeah.
Human resources.
You hired this guy. Yeah. I think we have to sign a waiver for this episode.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned too many names and too many technologies. I'm going to be in trouble. We'll see.
So you're super pumped about this fire individual. This new, you said you can't say her name, right? But it's a her, and she's going to be a local hire or remote hire as well.
She's remote in the sense. Yeah, I mean, she's going to be remote. She's about 3 hours away from our office. So we're located at Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. I love North Carolina. You would think, man, it's amazing. It's beautiful, and especially at Wrightsville Beach. It's the best beach in North Carolina. Our office is on the island. It's a great place to work. You would think everybody would want to, you know, if you had to work somewhere, you know, it would be easy to attract talent. But because we allow everybody to work remotely, everybody's like, no, I'm not even coming to the office. I guess it loses its allure. You know, I mean, how many times can you see the water where you're just blown away?
Well, I live on a beach town. So for me, you know, it's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got a drone recently, and my wife and I and our little baby girl, I was like, oh, let's go get some drone shots, you know, of the sunset. And we're at the beach, and I'm like, do you realize it's been like 3 years since we've been to the beach? We drive by it like every other day.
Every day. And isn't it? It's weird. Yeah. It's like, and not only that, it's such a hassle. It's like, why would I go to the beach?
Oh,
when I don't have to.
Yeah. I'll go. Exactly. It's like, I'll go to the beach. You got to get the sand in your car. No, I'll go to the beach in the winter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fall beach is the best. It's windy, it's crappy out, there's sand blowing in your face, but you're alone and your kids don't want to go in the water. So it's absolutely perfect. It's like, oh, this is the perfect beach experience. Nobody wants to experience the water. We're here for 15 minutes and we're absolutely alone. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you got to go in those moments where, like, I'll wait for a storm to come. No, no, in high school though, I'm not kidding you though. In high school, what we would do is it was Venice Island. So obviously, you know, when you live on the coast, there's like a bunch of beaches everywhere. So we would go to when the storms would come in, everybody would skip class because it's a 12-minute walk from the school to the beach, right? So you would go down to the jetty and everyone would skim and surf when the storm would come in, because you would have 3 or 4 foot waves, which is huge for us, you know, because we're on the Gulf. So that's what we would do. That was high school.
I didn't go to, I went to, unfortunately I went to school that was inland, but not by much, but I just didn't get to the beach very much. But yeah, it is the experience of living at the beach and how little you actually go to the beach, especially, but high school, that would have been great to live at the beach during high school.
Right.
That would have been fantastic.
But you don't think about it though, when you're in it, like it's like, you don't think about like in a romantic view, right? Like looking back on it, I'm like, oh man, that's very cinematic, you know, like that's very like California high school movie where we can just jump in the Jeep and drive down to the beach in 2 minutes. But like when you're there, it's just like, we have a beach.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, it's got some sand, it's got some water, you know, take a pick. If you've seen enough, let's go back to the house and sit around and watch TV.
Yeah. Now living in Florida, what's cool is a mountain, because we live in the flatlands. So like when I see something in the sky, I'm like, it's like looking at an alien. It's like, whoa, there's a mountain ridge in the sky. I was like, let's go climb that thing. And it's just
you guys have topography.
Yeah. That's why we go. Our go-to vacation is up in the Carolinas, and then all through the mountains up in there. And yeah, that's what we like to do. We like to go see things that aren't flat.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Asheville area?
Yeah. So I mean, I know you said you're on the water area. I have family in like 3 different parts of North Carolina, and then I have family in Georgia too. So I have spent a lot of my life all up around in that area. But where we go hiking is in like the northern Georgia, like Blairsville, where northern Georgia hits the other states. So that's where we go a lot. But we do make it out to the beach and your coast too. It's just when we visit my aunt. But it's just like for us, going to the beach isn't like a big deal.
Yeah, beach to beach is nothing. Exactly. I don't want to go vacation on a beach. Unless have you been down to like the Dominican Republic at all? Have you been to that at all?
No.
It changed my life. Like normally I don't, why would I go to the beach? I live at the beach, but my wife and I went on a vacation. It was like this wedding for one of our friends. We went on a vacation down to Punta Cana. And I don't know if like most people are kind of the same, like, but no matter where you go on vacation, you're still kind of thinking about work, and you're accessible by work, especially if you have Slack. I mean, you're just watching a cascade of work happen. And so sometimes you'll just check in, you'll slide one of those little notifications and be like, oh, okay, well, things haven't blown up. Or if things have, then you have to like insert yourself back in. But we went to Punta Cana a year and a half ago. And it was amazing. It was the most relaxed, the most like, I guess, disinvolved or uninvolved in my actual life that I'd ever been. And I was like, man, it was the first time I'd taken a vacation where I really would have not left if I didn't absolutely have to. And normally at the end of vacation, you're like, all right, let's wrap the shit up. Let's go. Everybody get in the car. We've got enough of this family time. Get in the car. Shut up. Everybody just heads forwards. We're not going to talk about what just happened in the past week. But this one was amazing. And unfortunately, and I don't know, my kids weren't there. It was just me and my wife. So that might have been a part of it. It was amazing. But yeah, if you get a chance.
That definitely played a role.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so is this what I'm looking at pictures of it actually on Google Images. Is this what your beach looks like in North Carolina? I looked up Punta Cana, Dominican Republic beach.
I don't know, sir. I don't know.
Well, you were there.
The Punta Cana. Oh, the Punta Cana beach. Punta Cana is amazing. Yeah, it's white sands. It was blue water.
Is that what your beach is like in North Carolina?
Oh yes, absolutely. Parts of it.
Cool.
Right. Well, a little bit. Yeah. But Punta Cana was it was on a different level. I really had not, I'd seen pictures of the Dominican Republic, and I'd never been there. But it was paradise. It was literally paradise. And we went to an all expenses resort. I'd never done that before, where you just walk in and walk out, and everything is, your entire life is really free for that week down there. I mean, obviously it's paid for, but I mean, you just get to exist without technology beating you up. And then, so that was really nice.
Jake, book it. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's wrap this up. Let's just go. Let's go.
I look at the itinerary. It's actually got Jake on there. No, I meant for me and my wife. Jake's like standing there in flip-flops with a beach towel and sunscreen. No. No. Not you, you animal. That's not in my head. It's not my wife, me and a beach, and Jake. Oh man, no, I'm excited. All right, so last couple questions here. In your organization, how many people do you currently have? You said about under 20.
For the developers, under 20, under 20 for developers. Then we've got obviously our support, and then we've got, executives. We're really executive heavy. No, I'm just kidding. That's about right. We got, I think, about 25 people in our organization, I guess, altogether.
Cool.
But we're growing like crazy. So we're in the hiring spree right now.
No, that's awesome. So I always try to get like a perspective in my head, because I don't, like, sometimes it really surprises me. They'll say, oh yeah, we have like 3,200 employees. And I'm like, oh, cool. Because that's just a little bit different, you know?
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
then when
So,
they do that, and you think, like, what does each one of them do? Because I know, like, really, like, what is each, when you have somebody that, or a company that size, I mean, everybody here is, you know, all of our developers are everybody's assigned something, but if I had 3,200, I don't know, what would I do? What would they do? I guess everybody would just kind of talk to each other.
no, they just do
That's a lot.
The only way to get to that
Work.
size is to just do the repeatable thing that creates the money to hire more people.
Right. Yes.
Right? Like everyone's just carrying out their task, and that task is proven because if the market's giving them money, that's how they grow. If the task that they were doing didn't generate money, they couldn't be at 3,200 people. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Downsize.
So with the 20, you're at this right downside, or you have some really investors that don't know how to read their financials. But but if you have, like, what are you doing for leadership? Like, do you have your eye on somebody that you're kind of grooming to be a better leader?
Geez, what are we doing for leadership? Yes, I'm kind of working with each one of our application lead architects, because I really want them to move into like an executive role, because our products are going to start to span into multiple areas. Without going into some of the newer stuff that we're doing, these people that we're hiring and bringing on are going to be people that we put out in front of conferences. They're going to be the leads in some of these fire interoperability conferences or these build-a-thons, these kind of things. So we're going to be investing heavily in all of some of our great employees, to sending them to these things so that they can learn, they can take this information, they can be leaders outside in those, in those areas of expertise inside of fire, and then bring that back into our organization, and then grow outside of our organization, because it's really important in healthcare that people, are listening to what is being built out there, so they kind of understand what they can build onto. And that's really what the opportunity that fire brings to everybody, but it's just underutilized right now. So that's what we're going to be doing for our leadership, is actually getting our employees, our main and lead employees for our products, out there talking to the developers and talking to the conference leaders out there.
Oh, that's smart. That's what works. We had
I hope so.
Yeah, we had the head of the term is often evangelism, right? That's like the current hype title, because you know how titles change like all the time. But the head of evangelism for Alexa, like, Amazon Alexa.
Yes.
Yeah, he was on the show last week. His name is David Spitsky. And so he actually runs he's the head of them. So there's a number of them that do the evangelism for Alexa's product. And so he's like the head of all of them. And he's like their chief speaker and chief evangelist. So, I was talking with him a lot about, man, this being able to communicate what you're doing and sending people out to the conferences and having them be a part of the community is the thing that works. Like, yes, it really works.
I agree. Yeah. It's funny, Alexa and Amazon. I mean, just what happened to those guys in the last like 3 or 4 or 5 years, when they really went into offering technology and technology platforms for technology companies. It was so smart. We use Amazon. Amazon is how we manage all of our data and our hosting and our infrastructure. And we love them just for their ease of use, their scalability, and their cost. I mean, it's, what would have cost you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, 8 years ago, is now available to you for, a fraction of the cost, a fourth of the cost. So that's amazing. But then the platforms that they're getting, that they're developing with Spheres, and we have one where I can't really say, but they're doing some amazing things in healthcare, and the way that they're able to monitor patients I think you're probably going to see in the next like 6 months to a year, it's going to be almost like a virtual patient assistant. It's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So good.
And we should have better technology. Yeah. When you were saying that, I've been writing these systems for 15 years, and I remember, I don't know, I did one that did very well. Let's see, 12 years ago. And I remember our infrastructure, as we were scaling, we were doing real estate data, right? So we had like lots of data, right? We would go into a market and we would get just insane amounts of data. It would be every home for sale in like an entire region of the United States, right? All with 12 pictures and changing every, 6 seconds and stuff like that. So we had we had servers, like we would call up Rackspace and be like, build us another server. And then we would mirror hard drives and like replicate and use all these technologies. And it was expensive, like really, really expensive. And now it's like, boom, I can just boot up and pay per second. It'll auto scale. Don't worry about it. Like our auto scaling was picking up the phone and saying, bro, our servers are overloaded. Plug in another machine.
Yeah, and especially Rackspace, who I love. I mean, we used Rackspace back in the day. Everybody used Rackspace. They were so expensive. I mean, yes. And I remember like having to, the very first company that we started, and getting that Rackspace bill, and they told me how much it's gonna be. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
How are we gonna pay for this? But now
we work for Rackspace apparently.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, just 1099 me. I guess this is where I am.
Awesome. All right. So if people want to find more about you I can't speak now. I guess that's what it is. I got too excited, right? Well, this is why we clip it. This will go on our blooper reel. But you're gonna leave it in, Jake? Jake's gonna leave it in. So do you hang out on Twitter or LinkedIn? Where do you hang out most?
I hang out. I don't really hang out. What's weird? I don't use social media hardly at all. The only reason I do it is really to check out pictures of my kids that my wife posts and tags me in.
Okay.
Or to self promote our company. But I really don't hang out on it.
Oh, okay. But where do you check? Like, do you use email?
Yeah, I do. I have an email account. I do have an email account.
If you want to reach Brad, you can use the smoke signal code 33211.
If you want to reach out, we obviously have a DocsInk page.
Yes.
If you want to reach, you can obviously reach me at my email is bh@docsink.com.
There you go.
But yeah. Oh, okay, I didn't know that's
Do we have an IP address? This is pre-domains. Yeah. This is Brad's IP address is 192. You can reach him directly. Oh man, this is so much fun. Dude, Brad, I really like you. It was excellent hanging out. When I'm in North Carolina, I'm gonna make an excuse to stop by and say hello.
Do it. Absolutely. Let me know when you guys are in town. And I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking. I haven't had these conversations before about our company, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is what we do. We do CTO stuff. We do leadership stuff. I'm putting out, actually we're kind of done with the podcast, but we're putting out the second book in like 3 months. I think you're the first person I'm like really talking to publicly about it. I don't know. I guess I just like you. But yeah, we're doing another book. But some of the topics we're covering is actually the evangelism and how to break into that market and making content about that.
Anything that I can do to help you with that? I don't really know. I mean, honestly.
Well, when you get if they struggle and fail, like that would be a good if they're struggling and like meeting resistance and stuff with being a public figure, those are the best topics, because that's when we can go pull up a David Spitsky and be like, hey, give us the answers. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. If you have any failure topics, you come to me. You let me be the spokesperson for your failure topics. Yes.
Give us all your failure, Brad. No, because it's so great. Because with all the relationships from the podcast and stuff, it's just like when people need information, if they have problems, it's like, yo, come talk to me, because you need the CTO of Microsoft. Maybe you're going through ultra growth and you're going from 3,000 employees to 6,000 employees. Oh, go talk to Kevin. He is Microsoft. He's got like 30,000 employees, right? Or whatever area that you're at that you need stuff with. I can just connect you to any of the past guests, anything you ever need at all.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Thank you.
All right. So the way it wraps up here is it was actually